Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining No Movies in Hell. This episode, we're going to discuss Blue Bayou. I'm here with LaCroix.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to No Movies in Hell.
And LaCroix and I got to see Blue Bayou together. So we don't always get to watch each movie together, but we did get to see this one at the same showing.
That's right. Thank you, AMC Times Square, for having it, because I feel like I saw one trailer for it and then it just seemed like it just wasn't in theaters, at least to my knowledge. How did you feel about kind of the promotion of the film?
I felt like I saw more frequent trailer showings only because I think I go to a lot of Asian language movies with Asian casting. So I definitely saw this trailer in the theater probably 4, maybe 5 times before the movie came out. I will say I was a little bit disappointed in the amount of showings and the length that it was in the theaters. And I will give a shout out to AMC Empire 25 because I think they do the best job of any theater in New York that I know of in terms of showing Asian language and Asian cast movies. Maybe it's because they have so many screens. I've seen almost always they have at least one Asian language movie showing every week, which I think is great.
Yeah, that's really good. And it's in a central location that's easy to get to. I call it AMC Times Square, but it's AMC 25 Empire. And I always have a hard time when I go to book it on the AMC app because I'm like, where's the Times Square one? Oh yeah, it's 25 Empire.
Yes. But calling it the AMC Times Square, that's how most people know it. That's where it is. It's the biggest one. So I feel like that's accurate.
Well, let's dive into this one. I feel like this one was tough. Is tough to watch. I don't know about you, but dramas are just, I don't naturally gravitate to dramas. I like them, but I kind of don't go out of my way to watch them. And I was compelled by the story, and I'm very happy that we saw the film. I'm happy I saw the film, and I definitely recommended it. But before I jump into that part, talk about Blue Bayou. For background, it's written and directed by Justin Chon and set outside of New Orleans in Louisiana. His character is a gentleman named Antonio LeBlanc, who is a Korean American adoptee who's facing deportation out of the US. That kind of sets the stage there for me. What were your thoughts on kind of the background and the setup?
So the background I thought was very interesting. I'm a Korean adoptee, so that part immediately was interesting, right? So, and I was adopted and I was naturalized as a citizen of the United States. Even though I was adopted as a baby, I wasn't naturalized as a citizen until age 5. So it's 2 separate processes. And from what I understand, a lot of people didn't realize that back in the 70s and early 80s. And so this is not an uncommon situation, right? Like it happened to people. And so that was interesting as well. The Fordham Law School does a series on arts and culture, and they actually did a talk about this particular issue, because it was so common when this movie came out. I was super interested in this movie as soon as I saw the setup for it. I hadn't seen anything by Justin that he had either written or been in prior to this, but I do like Alicia. I think she's really great in the things that I've seen her in. I've liked her since Ex Machina, and I had high expectations for this movie.
I was really drawn in from the trailer. Like you, I'm not familiar with Justin's work. Alicia Vikander was a definite draw, as kind of, I guess she's Oscar nominated actress playing Antonio's wife. For me, the 2 categories. Oh, so before I jump into the categories, I gave this film a 25 out of 30 in terms of the overall rating. And I'll jump into kind of my two categories of interest here. So just leveraging the background, the story it's rooted in reality. It's emotionally charged. It's very heartbreaking. It was just like watching kind of a slippery slope of like this character. It's not even a character. It's like it's a person. It's an everyday person who's just trying to make it through. And it's just this depiction of, how he's trying to make his life better, but also like the local and the closeness of everybody in his that he socializes with and on his team. Like what really threw me off, which I can see as plausible, was that an ICE officer was a friend of his via the tattoo parlor. And I was just like, this is insane. But I can see that happening in like smaller towns and where people are just like, either they're not aware or like somehow kind of peripherally aware of the values that people have, but then also their beliefs and how they're two different separate things. And there could be a dichotomy, but then there's the human element of their values versus like their beliefs. And that kind of threw me for a loop. But then I was like, oh, well, things like this could happen in Louisiana, with folks that the population that be where the character is from. And definitely, the financial element of this, and also the feeling of otherness and trying to protect the people that you love. So it was just one thing, like it was just one hit after the other, where it's just kind of like you feel so paralyzed and you want great things to happen because this person deserves the best and they're really trying hard. That was, yeah. So my story was a 3. I thought it was very strong, very, very emotional. So what is your overall score and first category, I guess?
So my overall score is 24, which is funny because we've only scored 2 movies and I scored both of them in like the mid 20 range. So I'm consistent, at least there. I thought the acting was great. I did look up after we talked last time. Alicia did win best supporting actress one year. She won it for The Danish Girl.
Oh, okay. So she's an Oscar winner.
Yeah, so you're right about that. So I thought the acting was really good, especially since she's not from Louisiana. Very believable. I thought he was very good. I thought the little girl was really good.
She was really good.
I truly believe that everyone who was playing a character was really embodying that character. There was no one, even kind of the woman who sort of appears from nowhere and has that side story going. You're just kind of like, you know what? All right, her too. I'm in. I believe it all. We differed there, actually. You gave it a 2 on acting and I gave it a 3. The people I expected to do a really good job did a really good job, but the people I didn't expect to do a good job, or I had no expectations of, not that I thought they would do poorly, but that I had no expectations of, did a really good job. So that's my first category.
Great. Yeah, I'm not going to get into it, but there were like 1 or 2 characters where I was just like, this is just, I don't know. You're playing this a little too well, or you're having too much fun and actually you shouldn't. My next category was cinematography, which I gave a 2. There were some wonderful shots in this film, like wide shots of that last character, for lack of a better word, would be the environment and more of the embodiment of Louisiana and kind of the environment, the nature. And it's kind of a character in and of itself. But I would have to say I was very distracted by, there were some super tight close shots. And then it was followed by like a shaky cam that put me out of my element, where actually I had to look at the side of the screen or look inside the theater to kind of reset my eyes. I couldn't separate that until the shot got wider. And I don't know if that was an artistic choice, or maybe because this was a bit of an indie film, like maybe there was just something that maybe it's something that I wasn't sure what was being conveyed, but for me, my eyes just didn't, the focal point, it was a little lost on me with the tighter shots.
The tighter shots were definitely noticeable, like to me as a choice. Like I'm gonna get right up and like
Yeah.
this person's face with the camera. But I thought I actually like that aspect. The parts where he's at like the water,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost like a painting, like an impressionistic painting. Like I thought those were beautiful, and so I gave it a 3 on cinematography. Because again, with t-shirt sizing, it just has to be better than average for me to hit that 3 mark. I would recommend this movie, highly recommend this movie because of the issues that it deals with
Mm-hmm.
just on its own. And then on top of that, I think it delivered really well on most of the categories.
I would definitely recommend this film. I wish that it were out a little longer in the theaters. I think it was a mid-September release, but I guess depending upon its distribution and then also the theaters and their decisions, I feel like it should have a longer shelf life before hitting streaming, but you never know these days.
It's true. I mean, I definitely feel like because of the backlog, a lot of great movies are now coming out like one on top of another. Like they're not getting the space and time that they would have if they had been allowed to come out naturally. But maybe some of them will get revisited later. It looked like AMC Empire 25 was showing Train to Busan a couple weeks ago, which
Okay.
was surprising to me because I saw Train to Busan 2 there a couple years ago. But so maybe from a distribution standpoint, they'll be able to bring some of these back and give them the theatrical time that they should have had. Now, whether that turns out to mean people want to see it in the theater 6 months from now, a year from now, I guess we'll find out. But hopefully, fingers crossed.
I'm curious on your opinion. So I feel like this film definitely with kind of a early fall release is kind of a target possibly for an Oscar nomination. What do you think about that?
Do I think it could get nominated or do I think it could win?
Nominated.
I definitely think it could be nominated, especially because Justin Chon did so much of it himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he did a great job. He did a good job with writing it. He did a good job in it. He did a good job directing it. So I definitely think he could get nominated in one of several categories. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to think about what movies will get Oscar nominated. I just feel like I don't have a sense of even what's considered this Oscar season. You know what I mean? Like from a timing perspective, I have no sense of like, is it still the case if you don't release in theaters, you don't get considered?
Yeah, I don't know what the qualifiers are because there's some things that go just straight to Netflix, or like there were some things that won last year. Like I'm thinking Nomadland that was distributed straight up on like Hulu and Amazon.
That did go to theaters though, briefly. So yeah. I think if it's released in theaters when it streams, like at the same time, then I think it still counts. But if it goes straight to streaming without theatrical release, it used to be that didn't count, right?
Yeah. I don't think it did. I have to look back at what won, I guess, this year to see. But I do see that like Blue Bayou could possibly get nominated, maybe in the acting category, depending upon what else comes out at the end of this year.
Right. Like, especially, I think the things that I'm looking forward to are not so much story and character based. Mm-hmm. Like, of course, James Bond, I'm looking forward to that. But I don't necessarily think that and Blue Bayou would be in competition for an Oscar in the same category.
No. Yeah.
So
definitely.
But so the movies I'm looking forward to, right? Like The Matrix is coming out in December. Like I'm looking forward to like these big blockbusters, Top Gun. But I don't know that those we're gonna like that those are really the Oscar heavy hitters.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to think of what would come out or what has come out that would be in those categories. Yeah. That's a good question. I'm gonna look that up and maybe we'll talk about it in our next episode.
Sounds great.
Do you have any other thoughts about Blue Bayou before we close out this episode?
I think I don't like I would have to I highly recommend it. I think it is fantastic film, really well done. It deserves all the kudos in the world, and it was definitely an education, and I'm very happy that it exists, and I hope people watch it.
Agree. And I would say as a closing, it did show up in Cannes. And I also this past week watched Titane, which won the Palme d'Or. And I will say that I enjoyed Blue Bayou significantly more than I enjoyed Titane. Titane was interesting, and we can talk about that in another episode. But I thought Blue Bayou, if I had to pick one of those two to win the Palme d'Or, it would not have been Titane.
Okay, well, yes, we'll definitely have to eval in a single, like we choose, Kris and LaCroix choose movies, because I don't think I'm going to see Titane, but that's a whole nother story. So what do we have to promote this week?
So what do we have to so I run a meetup group in New York City called I Heart Korean Movies. You can join us. We see things like Minari and Parasite, of course, big Korean movies, but we also see things that are loosely based Korean movies. So they're not Korean language, but we did see Blue Bayou as part of that. So join us in person if you would like, or join us virtually if you are afraid of us in person. What about you, LaCroix?
I don't have anything to plug per se, but if you like us, if you like No Movies in Hell. Oh, wait, did this movie go to hell? No, this movie didn't go to hell. This is great. If you like this podcast and want to support us, and you like collecting things, we are going to have a POAP, a proof of attendance protocol badge, that you can get on your POAP app. Please check out our link tree and check out our YouTube, check out our SoundCloud to get that code so that you can get a really cool badge for listening to No Movies in Hell.
Now, LaCroix, will there be a POAP code that is the same or different for the different channels? So if you listen to us on SoundCloud, is it the same POAP as if you watched us on YouTube?
That is correct. So the POAP is per episode.
Okay.
It'll be a limited edition, and it will be per episode. You can catch the code on all of our social media and podcast distribution channels. But once the code is gone, that's it.
So limited edition. Get it while you can.
Yes, get it while you can.
All right, join us for our next episode, and we'll see you guys later.
Thank you.